put your right hand on this and hold up your left hand. Repeat after me.
Repeat after me. Penny didn't like that. She's like, that's overdone.
We get the bit. Okay. I, Lucia Fasano.
I, Lucia Fasano.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will to the best of my ability.
And will to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help me, Goddess.
So help me, Goddess.
Goddess! All right, you're president! Yay!
Yay! Finally!
Lucia's president, everybody.
Thank you all for your support. Thank you for eradicating all of the other people in the world.
The battle royale that
were
led to
before me.
The King Ralph situation.
I will uphold my duty. And also, I will do a good job.
Let's start the show. Boom, 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 boom,
Is that Bill Maher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got.
I'm not a crook. I earned everything I've got. Yeah, good.
Mr. Gorbachev.
You didn't build that. Yeah, good.
Tear down this wall.
What's your favorite president?
Tear down this wall.
I can see Russia from my house. Pokemon, go to the polls.
Yeah, good.
What's your country?
You did stay well alive.
Hi, Luch.
Hi.
It's chicken in every pot o'clock.
Oh, wow. I forgot to turn my clock back to chicken.
It's chicken in every pot o'clock.
That's great.
Recording live from the Pod Loft. It's Kyle McCormick.
And Lucia Fasano, the
Chicken.
president.
The President Lucia Fasano.
President Chicken. It's our second show of 2021.
That's right. How are you liking 2021 so far?
It's a little different, so that's kind of nice. Like, there's some movement going.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of vaccines were promised, and they were like, come get them. And then they were like, we forgot to make enough for everyone. So,
whoops.
yeah, so it's just kind of like, they're like, come to Dodger Stadium in Disneyland. We're going to be giving you a bunch of vaccines. And then they're also like, but you have to wait in line with people that might have COVID.
Yeah.
And you might not even leave with one. You might leave with COVID. So, yeah, it's almost as if there's no vaccine. But, we'll see. So that's something about 2021. We have a new president.
It's you.
Yeah, me. But then also for the haters, we have Joe Biden.
For the haters and the losers.
So it's just like, that is a relief that I won't say the era of Trump is over, because that's bigger than him.
Yeah. All these treats on the table for Penny.
I put several treats for her that she was supposed to have eaten. She
waited until the minute we started recording.
Oh my god.
Penny,
we all want a snack. That doesn't mean that we can snack. While the camera's rolling.
While we're on
the NSA camera.
While we're live.
While we're live. Larry King live.
Larry
King dead. As of right now.
That's right. We have a new president. We have Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
Yeah, so it's like, at least something's slightly different than it was a month ago.
We have a new vice president. Kamala Devi Harris.
Kamala Chameleon. That's a good way to remember the pronunciation.
That's true.
So we have a new meme, the Bernie Sanders meme.
We have a wonderful new... And you know what? This is always how it was going to be, right? President, vice president, meme. The three top levels of American political society.
Yeah. Which
one lives longer? Memes.
Memes do.
They live forever.
So, I feel like I'm still processing the relief of watching. Penny just launched into the closet.
It was a Penny-heavy episode.
It was really impressive. I feel like we're still dealing with I'm still processing that Trump got on that plane or helicopter, wherever they sent him, to The Hague, and he went to YMCA.
Yeah, he
Like,
was
that was
played
the
off
song.
with YMCA.
Which, okay, he loves that song. He's had it at all his rallies. So, that could have been the song he chose. But also, I could see whoever was in charge of that, putting that song on as like a fuck you.
Yeah.
And him just having you have
to
to
deal
yes
with it.
and it, and they're waving sadly.
The funniest third option that I just thought of is they just shuffled his playlist, his campaign playlist. They're like, just put a song on. Put any on. And they thought it was going to be like, I'm proud to be an American or something. And instead it's, ba, 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 young man.
Yeah, and like, he loves to dance to that song, but instead he just kind of had to like solemnly wave.
He couldn't bop.
He couldn't bop. It would be great if he literally danced out.
Honestly, I was just talking about this with a friend of the show, Chris Hodamy. Really disappointing last couple days from Trump. There's so much insane, fun stuff he could have done.
Just because his Twitter was taken away doesn't mean that his soul
He
had
could
to
have
be
kept
taken
vlogging.
away. Yeah, he could have vlogged. He could have, had his children send things. He could have made some positive, choices that could have given him a slightly better legacy.
Could have pardoned Julian Assange
Like
or
that.
Edward Snowden, a reality winner.
Which Mitch McConnell was like, if you pardon Assange, I'm going to whoop your ass.
Yeah, when already McConnell is signaling that he might vote to convict Trump in the impeachment.
Yeah, so I guess it was like, I'm going to super impeach you if you release Assange.
Yeah.
Which is funny because so many Trump people, including Trump himself, basically are like, WikiLeaks was great, it helped me out bigly. Instead, he chose to just execute more people than the country has executed that were in federal death row.
Yeah, he got his aggression out with a killing spree.
Yeah, which is just like anyone that has any defense of Trump, it's like there's something to that bloodthirst.
I think
it's just power wanting. That like one of the people he executed, the last person he executed, both the last two had COVID, and so they couldn't see their families for the last months of their life, and they were weaker, so that when they got executed, it could have been a much more painful execution. So they were pushing to have it pushed back to like March, and they got that agreement. Yeah. And the Trump admin pushed so hard to rush those executions.
They have these bloodthirsty lawyers. Like, I'm not a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I'm not a constitutional scholar.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, not being able to see your family before you're executed because of a disease that you'll either recover from within a few weeks or you'll just die of naturally, to me, that seems like a pretty clear violation of the Eighth Amendment, the cruel and unusual punishment clause. It seems to me that is a clear, cruel and unusual way to punish somebody. Because, look, like, I know that we have a death penalty, and we're going to keep having it for a while. But, I don't know, it just seems to me like everything involving the death penalty, if it's exercised, the burden of the state has to be so high. Like, there has to be absolutely no doubt of guilt, right? I'm talking multiple appeals. There has to be... I'm saying this is how it should be if they're going to have it at all. And anything like that, it's already cruel and unusual to do. Mm-hmm. And so it just seems insane. I don't know what the justification is. Yeah. To like, well...
And, one of the guys, which of course we're an anti-murder podcast. We are not sponsored by murder. For good murder. No. Is, the second to last person that was executed, like, he was involved in gang stuff when he was like a teenager, and he killed some people for the gang.
Which, look, who among us hasn't?
I mean, I kill people for the gang all the time, the podcast gang, and like, there's a lot of arguments to be made about people being manipulated and pressured in the culture that they grew up in.
There's a question of culpability at that point when it's like a social arrangement.
And still doesn't make it okay.
No.
But so this person's been on death row for like 25 years or something. They get COVID, And so their lawyers tried to say, hey, like, he might, trigger warning, he might, feel like he's drowning.
He might react poorly to the injection.
Yeah, and
because his lungs are compromised.
Trump's Supreme Court basically said, like, hey, it's not our responsibility. We don't owe anyone a painless death.
Which is not true.
That's not true. Like how can that be?
Again, we have a constitutional right as people.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I would have to check the text. There's a quick aside, but the Constitution, everything in it applies to one of two groups. It's clear in its phrasing. I learned this in college. There's persons and citizens. Anything that goes to citizens, obviously only applies to citizens. Persons applies to anybody within the United States jurisdiction. And I'm pretty sure that the cruel and unusual punishment standard applies to everybody, which means the United States has a burden to not provide cruel and unusual punishments to anybody within its jurisdiction, which is why torture is illegal.
And that ties in a little bit with the stuff about freeing Julian Assange or before Chelsea Manning was freed. It's like Julian is in the UK right now, but they want to extradite him. His extradition got denied this time. But basically, like, Julian Assange has been tortured for years. And
that's why his extradition got denied.
Yeah, and he's very ill.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, then the next step of these punishments are kind of rubbing salt in the wound.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just an aside.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say real quick, an aside about Assange, and I don't remember if we talked about it really, but his extradition request to the U.S. was denied because U.S. prison conditions would not prevent him from committing suicide. He's a suicide risk. That's insane. The fact that the United States, compared to its closest companion in the world stage, has such a cruel and unusual justice system that we cannot... The government of the United Kingdom, a cruel, venal, reactionary government just like ours...
But they wear wigs.
But they do wear wigs. They don't think that we can keep this guy alive. They do not trust our criminal justice system to keep a defendant alive.
And fair.
And they're fair. Which is also the funniest thing, that if they did kill Epstein, if the government killed Epstein, it'd be so funny if...
That's what lost them Assange.
If that lost them Assange.
Yeah. It's it reminds me of like being like, well, my son can't have a pet hamster because he won't take care of it. He'll starve it. He'll feed it to... He'll flush it down the toilet. And it's like, okay, well then your son has other problems.
Yeah, you are definitely correct about the hamster. That's a good call. But the conversation can't end right there.
And that really is American culture. It's like, boys will be boys. He was a little rowdy in college with the girls. And then it's like, so what makes you think he's going to be a good husband? He's going to be a... Oh my God, I feel like we need to talk about the pee story.
Oh my God.
Am I the asshole?
Okay, wait, let's leave that to the end.
Yeah,
let's if we still have
not time, cheerful, but it's
if we still have
bizarre.
time at the end,
okay,
we'll talk about it. If not, just...
It's a little teaser.
It's a tease.
And we'll share it. Okay, so then the other gentleman... But so they killed this guy on death row. Even though we didn't get to see his family, he didn't, Yeah. But then the last guy that they killed, who was even a little bit younger, he was involved in a case where, and this is all trigger warning, I guess. This is now a chicken in every crime. A crime in every pod. This gentleman, gosh, I feel so bad not saying their name. Dustin Higgs, I believe. He... If I'm getting their name wrong, look up this case, because it is just... I feel so bad. I read it the night before he was executed, and in my mind it was like, well, this is just so wrong, and everyone knows it's wrong. Something's gonna happen. And then that just sort of that dull, just like, oh, they killed him the next day. He also had COVID, so he had a son. He didn't get to see his son before he was killed. And what happened is, when he was younger, he was with 3 women. May they rest in peace. And the story goes something like, they wouldn't hook up with him or whatever. So he and 2 of his other friends, they get in the car with these women, say they're going to drive them home. Really, they pull off to the side of the road. They get out of the car. but one of the friends stays in the car, I think. But the 3 women get out too. And apparently, according to what got him put on death row, they say he ordered his friend to kill the 3 women and handed his friend the gun. So his friend, who has now recanted that even happened and said, I was completely aware of my faculties. I was not forced to kill those people. He had nothing to do with it. So, but the court pushes that other story, and they give the guy who actually shot those 3 women dead, they give him life in prison, and they give Dustin, I believe is his name.
That sounds right.
They give him the death penalty. There are cult leaders that, like Manson didn't get the death penalty. He did get the death penalty, but they never actually did it.
Well, yeah. So with Manson and most of the Manson family, they all got the death penalty. But I believe the California Supreme Court declared that the death penalty in the state of California was unconstitutional.
Oh, yeah.
And so at that time, which it's back, I believe now, but at that time, anybody who had the death penalty, they had the sentences commuted to life.
They were like, Manson's too funny. We gotta keep him
He's
going.
wacky!
I want to put his corpse on display.
Like Bobby Beausoleil and all of them, they all had life. Death.
I'm just saying that there are a lot of situations where they do hold the person that maybe pressured people into killing, or maybe, hired someone to kill someone, like Joe Exotic.
If there's a clear
influence.
Like this is a macabre example, but we're deep into grisly territory.
Grizzly Conner. Uh-huh.
If they had survived, it wouldn't surprise me if after Columbine, if Eric Harris got death and Dylan Klebold got life in prison.
Yeah.
Because that's an example, from what I've seen, of where Eric Harris was clearly the charismatic mastermind who basically manipulated and pressured Dylan Klebold into doing it.
Yeah.
So there's instances like that where the person, even though in that instance they both did the same crime, when there's a clear case of somebody who is the one that bears the fuller moral culpability, they'll get the death penalty and not.
Yeah, but still, it's like you have the person that shot these women, really, the main person that knows what happened that night, saying, he doesn't deserve the death penalty.
Yeah.
He didn't kill them at all. And, his family's maintained his innocence, all this stuff. It's like, that is enough that at least, and the Innocence Project has been advocating for him, but it's like, that's more innocent than Stephen Avery for all we know right now. Like, it is mind-boggling that he was even in jail, let alone that he got the death penalty, and that Trump rushed his date was changed to March, and they rushed it.
Yeah.
And it just breaks my heart. Obviously I hope that he didn't really want to kill those women as revenge for them not putting out. It's obviously against everything I believe in, but oh my gosh.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like Kwame Kilpatrick and Duke Cunningham, they get pardons.
Yeah, Trump pardons all these people, and it's like, also pardons Lil Wayne for what? What happened?
Gun charge. He had a gun. He was already on parole.
Oh, it just got his slate cleaned, kind of.
He didn't really clean his slate. He just kind of dropped those charges, the federal charges,
because it was a parole violation of him having a firearm. Duke Cunningham was my old congressman growing up. Randy Duke Cunningham.
He was like corrupt. Right?
Yeah, it was a corruption charge.
I mean, he was a congressman, so he's
he was a North County, San Diego Republican congressman and like fighter pilot or something. Duke Cunningham, the Dukester.
Duke.
And he had to resign, I think, because of bribery and corruption scandals. And same with Kwame Kilpatrick, who was the mayor of Detroit.
So Trump's like, what's wrong with the little corruption?
As far as I'm concerned, these aren't even crimes.
So, it's one of those things where, like, Trump is a lot more fun to joke about right now just because of that relief that he is out. But it's also like, wow, he really ended on a note with that and with the Capitol of just like, you don't deserve to be.
Trump was always
on this.
Trump in the White House. Trump was always a cipher a little bit. He was always somebody that people could project whatever they wanted onto him. And
like Ted Cruz, who makes the ciphers.
Exactly. Partially because Trump doesn't believe anything or have a record at that point. So there was a contingent of people on the left who weren't necessarily pro-Trump or Trump-friendly. And I say these are people that I know and I sympathize with.
Yeah.
But who were like, maybe he'll pull something out. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he'll show that he's actually going to pardon Assange.
Even when he was like, we need $2,000 checks.
Exactly.
And that was just kind of like a nighttime whim of his.
Yeah, and that's an impulse that I've felt of like, I mean, maybe, he's not beholden to anything. Maybe he'll just do it. And I think that he
showed his true colors.
He showed his ass.
Orange, that sort of color in between the side of his face when it starts to become pale. Yeah. The bleach, those are his true colors.
Yeah, any idea that Trump secretly has any kind of actual populist impulses is just out the window, I think.
It's gone. And so we have Joe Biden, and another thing that was sort of surprising was that Joe was able to really just kind of get rid of a lot of Trump's executive orders. And obviously he can't take back both what his administration with Obama did, like a lot of the immigration stuff, and he can't take back a lot of the stuff Trump did. But boy, is it nice to see, like, Muslim ban? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's done.
I mean, and Joe said, like, we're going to find those kids. And it's like, okay, well,
good.
We're going to find their parents.
I hope.
You better. Just Joe out there with, like, a net trying to find, like, little binoculars.
He's out there with the Minutemen. He doesn't realize that they're hunting down illegals. You're finding them, right?
They're finding them, right? You're all my friends. So, that's nice. And I didn't watch the inauguration. I was sleeping, which is my right as a patriot.
That's right.
So you got up and watched the inauguration, right?
I did. I got up and I watched it. I watched most of it. It was an inauguration.
And you kind of watched it with children, not in a creepy way, right?
Yeah, don't phrase it like that.
Hey, Joe would.
That's true. I watched. I watched it with. I watched in the course of a student teaching assignment that I'm doing with a high school social studies class. And I was, kind of nonplussed by the whole thing. I watched Obama's inauguration. I watched Trump's. I've seen these, and I thought it was fine. But it was neat to see the youths respond to it.
Yeah.
Most
they've
of them,
kind of been responding to like what was going on in the Capitol and what was,
and they've never watched anything like this. These are 16, 17-year-old kids.
It's very weird to think of. We're a little bit past the time where, like, we had all the kids that were, like, middle school, high school with Obama being president. Yeah. And now a lot of those kids don't even really remember Obama. They don't really think he's cool. They don't think Biden's cool.
Yeah, they certainly don't think Biden's cool. I think that there are a lot of them that still think Obama's cool, but that's because Obama's brand is that he's cool.
Yeah, and they grew up with, or when they were very little.
Yeah, I don't know if they think that Obama was a good president, but I think that Obama was memified in the way Clinton and Reagan were for the generations that grew up with them, as like that's just a cool guy, like that's the cool president.
Yeah.
I know that when I was growing up in the 90s, even though my family were Republicans, there was still this sense of like Clinton's cool. He's a cool guy. He plays the sax on TV. And I've heard from older friends that there was a sense of that with Reagan too. Not where Reagan was even cool, but it's like that's the president.
Yeah,
you like the president.
America.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, kids are 17 years old today. They were starting kindergarten when Obama was elected.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah, it's 12 years ago.
I was starting kindergarten when Obama was elected.
I'm going to jail.
I'm 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely going to jail. Because I'm also the president. I'm kid president.
Kid president?
Oh my god, these kids don't even know about kid president. Is kid president adult president now? What is happening?
Kid president is Joe Biden. Feel old yet?
So old.
But yeah, so it's
what did they think of the inauguration? The
they
ones
thought
that
it was,
actually paid attention.
Yeah, I mean they kind of thought it was inspiring, and this is the first time that they've really been exposed in their thinking life, like their self-conscious life, to normal American civics,
And they were like, wow, this is fun. It's kind of cool. It's, the Lady Gaga is singing. Like, she sang the national anthem. J-Lo came out and did.
Yeah, J-Lo got
This
saved from
Language
Army Hammer.
Yeah.
J-Lo was about to film a thing with
Was
Army
about to
Hammer.
fly to an island with Army Hammer.
And then
Never returned.
He graciously chose to
He was going to eat that ass.
pull out. Yeah, he was ready for that jelly.
Yeah.
And I don't like saying any of that. Let's just so
Reel it back.
Oh
Reel
my
it back.
god. So he was like, I want you made in Manhattan. No, I don't know really about J-Lo.
He was going to take her out of sight
And hustling.
and eat her.
Okay, so it's not funny. But so Army Hammer so last episode talked about Army Hammer
Army Watch.
eating people. Army Watch. Is he alive?
Trump's not
we
the
don't
president.
forget Trump.
So now it's the Army Watch.
My mom has been making so many really excellent cannibal puns and jokes. This whole episode is just inappropriate. And so he was like, because I think he talks like that, right? Like, because of my kids, I have to.
I don't know if that's what he talks.
No, remember he's like, we're the twins in Social Network.
Yeah, but I think he's doing a voice as the Winklevoss.
No, it's because he's so tall. His testosterone, and because he's so hungry for flesh.
Yeah.
So he's like, I gotta pull out of this film with J-Lo out of respect for my kids because these rumors are so fake. And so
These rumors are too fake for me to leave the country.
yeah. So anyway, so J-Lo was like, fuck this, and Joe was like, I'll have some of that jelly come to my
spicy señorita.
inauguration. Yeah, that is what Joe would say.
Yeah. And then Garth Brooks came out and sang.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did an a cappella rendition of Amazing Grace.
Oh, what? How? Wait, like, did he have other people singing like the percussion?
He just came out and did Amazing Grace. It's not far off.
Okay, good.
And then at the end, he was like, "Everybody sing it, you know it." And
what with their masks?
Yeah,
Everyone's muffled.
I think that people did sing it, but I think there was also a Dean screamness to it, where I think the people that did sing it. Well, no, because the story behind we should do a whole episode on the Dean scream. Actually, we should do a whole episode on the 2004 election, and we can include the Dean scream in it because there's not much to the Dean scream itself. It's a quick talk, but a big thing with the Dean scream, the reason why it came off so strange, is because Howard Dean had a unidirectional microphone, so he's shouting over the crowd. But you can't hear the crowd in the audio.
Just like our podcast, you can't
hear everybody around us going, yeah, yeah!
All of our fans.
Record it! Yeah.
Penny is just, yeah.
Her eyes opened a little bit and said that.
Oh, she's sleeping so cute.
She's
Can you take a
sleeping.
picture?
Yeah. But so, I think there was a little bit of a Dean scream situation with The Amazing Grace where I don't think you could really hear anybody else singing.
Yeah. So, okay, so Garth Brooks, Lady Gaga, J-Lo.
That was the
all of Joe
inauguration.
Biden's favorites. There's also a photo of Hunter Biden doing, like, crack with what looks like Lady Gaga and a friend of hers. In the same outfits.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah, and that was right when the Hunter Biden stuff was leaked and Trump started saying, I could tell you stories about Lady Gaga. So it's, of course, Lady Gaga's like, I love Joe.
And this is also how I learned...
blow with Hunter all the time.
This is also how I learned that Joe Manchin is Italian.
Ugh.
West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. Which, I have a thing to say about Joe Manchin. Somebody had a good point about Joe Manchin. And it was how to win over Joe Manchin. Because right now he's the most important person in the Senate. He's more important than Chuck Schumer, more important than Mitch McConnell. Because he's the vote. He's the tie-breaking vote. And it pointed out... Because they're...
Is he an independent?
No.
I thought he was a Republican.
He's a Democrat.
Oh, I thought he was a Democrat.
Yeah, he is.
I did it first, and then I... okay.
No, it's because the Senate...
Is he good?
No.
God damn.
Well, that's what I'm going to explain. The Senate's at 50-50. Mm-hmm. So, everything...
Great movie.
Which,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
It's true. So, everything that they want to pass has to get all 50 Democrats on board. Mm-hmm. And then Kamala Harris, as president of the Senate, can cast the tie-breaking vote. Mm-hmm. This, by the way, is why there's an increased movement to end the filibuster.
Yeah, though the filibuster just helped save the...
It did, but it also didn't.
Okay.
Because with the filibuster, the way the filibuster is structured in the U.S., which is this is a Jim Crow era holdover, is in order to stop the filibuster, you need 60 votes.
You need a good guy with a filibuster.
That's right.
You
need 60 votes in order to stop the filibuster. So what that means is that anything that the minority party doesn't want to pass,
suddenly and arbitrarily needs 60 votes instead of 50. Instead of 51, rather. Instead of a basic majority. So it's saying, like, you can't really pass anything the Republicans don't want you to pass with the filibuster in place. Because they'll just filibuster it. And you don't have 60 votes. So that's why they're saying it doesn't do anything else. And I can kind of agree with that.
So Joe
Manchin. The reason that he's the most important senator right now is because he's the 51st vote, really, on everything the Democrats want.
So it's 50 including Kamala, and then he's 51st?
Exactly, because it's technically 50-50, and then Kamala's 51st, but anything the Biden administration wants, Kamala will sign off on.
Okay.
So
unless she declares the 45th and gets Joe out.
Yeah, exactly. But so because Joe Manchin is probably the most conservative Democrat in the Senate, that means that he is their limit. Anything that they want to do, they've got to get Manchin on board.
Okay.
Now, there's some things...
They give him a good manicotti. They give him a good parmesan.
There's some things they might be able to dance around him with if it's something that Mitt Romney or Susan Collins or Rand Paul, somebody who's been willing to reach over the aisle, if they can get them instead, then they can cut Joe Manchin loose. But somebody pointed out that, like, Joe Manchin's not necessarily ideologically conservative if he wants to be Republican.
Yeah.
Right? He's in West Virginia. It's that he just doesn't want to do unpopular things. He doesn't want to threaten his seat.
So he was a big old nerd that wants to be loved by popular.
So the answer is, show him that this stuff is popular. Convince him that it's actually popular. And that's what you have to do, Joe Biden. That's your job now, is convince Joe Manchin that your policies are popular, and then he'll come on board. But so, he is Italian, I learned, because he took a photo with Lady Gaga, who has Italian family from West Virginia, too. And it was like, hey, West Virginia paisans. And I was like, first of all, that doesn't exist. Second of all, Manchin is Mancini. It's Mancini. And, did you just hear that?
It was like a photo frame fell down.
Oh, it sounded in the audio like somebody sharpening a sword.
It sounded in real life like that, too.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
But so, yeah, so the inauguration itself was fine. They swore Kamala in first. So the way that the inaugurations work, and historically have worked, at least since 1933, or 1930s at least, is on January 20th, they go to the Capitol.
They Pokemon go to the Capitol.
Pokemon go to the Capitol. And at noon that day, noon Eastern time, the previous president's term ends.
Nice.
So,
and then Trump turns into a pumpkin, which he already was.
Trump turns back into a normal man.
Trump turns into Shrek when Shrek is handsome. Okay, Trump turns into Hot Shrek.
Continue. And so the swearing in the new president is usually as close to noon as possible. So there's no gap. The vice president's sworn in first. So this time at about 11:45 Eastern Time, Kamala Harris was sworn in by Chief Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Cool.
Who mispronounced her first name.
Very funny. Okay.
And then about 10 minutes later, technically before noon, which actually means for about 10 minutes, technically Trump was the president and Kamala was the vice president. About 10 minutes later, Chief Justice John Roberts, always the Chief Justice, swore in Joe Biden on a copy of apparently an old family Douay Rheims Bible.
Douay Rheims?
Douay Rheims. I got one right there. It's a Catholic Bible.
Oh, it really is spelled Douayrheims.
Yeah. I think there's 2 villages in France where they did the translation.
That's going to be my new pseudonym, Douay Rheims.
It's one of the oldest English translations of the Catholic Bible, which is slightly different than the Protestant Bible. So you got sworn in on that, and bada bing, bada boom, he's the president.
Did he say all the words right?
He did. Wow. He said all the words just right.
Which a lot of presidents haven't done in the past.
That's true. In fact, most recently, Barack Hussein Obamacare messed up his inauguration the first time, which of course is why he was never a legitimate president.
Oh, yeah.
He was never really sworn in.
That's what Trump was, like, really upset about, not the birth certificate.
Yeah, he was like, the birth certificate thing, who really cares? Who really cares? The point is, he didn't do his oath right.
I think your Trump impression is peaking. It's too high for the show. It's too heinous for the show. I remember when that was a thing, because going to school in a conservative area, and like, you know, I mean, a lot of people go to an art school, everyone is excited about Obama, but there still was a lot of conservative sentiment, and it was like, he couldn't even do his oath right.
Yeah, which is funny because I didn't have it on the thing right there. Hold on just a moment. Just a moment. Yeah, so they basically made a bunch of mistakes.
Oh my god. What if Obama never was president?
No, they went and did it the next day.
Oh yeah.
They did it right. But so first Obama interrupted John Roberts.
Oh my god, what did he do?
As Roberts was doing the I, Barack Obama, do solemnly swear, he started saying, Barack, while he was saying, do solemnly swear. Kind of talked over him.
Classic, I've done that.
And then he correctly repeated and said, I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear. And then John Roberts messed up. Instead of saying, will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, he said, will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
Okay.
Which,
sounds
of
like
course,
he was very
is nothing.
Nervous and, like, very just, like, yeah, not listening. Like, just nervous.
Yeah, and, you know, that's Roberts messing up.
Yeah.
And then Obama said, I will execute, and then paused.
Oh, Roberts was probably drunk.
Yeah, and then Roberts attempted to correct the wording, but stumbled and said the off, faithfully, the the office of President of the United States. And then Obama repeated Roberts' initial incorrect wording.
What a shit show.
And then Roberts ended it by saying, so help you God. And then Obama said, so help me God. And then...
Don't invite Roberts to officiate your wedding.
Yeah.
He'll, like, marry you by accident.
Yeah, because John Roberts... he wasn't using notes. He was doing it from memory.
He's like that waiter that's like, I'll get your order right.
Yeah, exactly. He's like the waiter who's like, no, I'll remember it. But so they redid it. Another noteworthy thing about this. Where was it? I just had this up. I just had these notes. There it is. You ready?
Yes.
Another noteworthy thing about this particular inauguration, because that's the theme of this episode, folks. We're talking naug. Is that Donald Trump wasn't there.
So that's unusual, right?
It's quite unusual. There's only been 6 times when a president did not attend the inauguration of their successor.
What catty bees?
Yeah, I'm going to go through them. So
it's funny. Speaking of catty bees, friend of the show, Laser Melina Weber of the Double Clicks, just said, tell Kyle and the podcast audience I say hello.
Thank you, Laser. Hello back. We had 2 friend cameos in this episode. So Donald Trump did not attend. He was in Florida already. He left early that morning.
I love that he went to fucking Florida.
Well, it's the only place without laws in the United States.
The only place that will take him back.
Yeah.
It's so great that he's so obsessed with the Hollywood elite and New York elite and the
he's got to go
glitterati.
be a Florida man.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful end. So the previous one that didn't was actually Woodrow Wilson. Did not attend Warren G. Harding's inauguration, but it's because he was in poor health. As we all know, he had had a stroke and Edith Wilson was basically the president. So that's not considered a boycott.
Edith should have gone as him.
Yeah.
Like in drag as him.
Like Cola Scola in the new season of Search Party.
Or just a Mrs. Doubtfire situation.
But so Woodrow Wilson just couldn't attend. Just plumb couldn't go. The one before that was Andrew...
He had a stroke just so he didn't have to go.
A year earlier, yeah. Which actually, I mean, Woodrow Wilson wanted to run for president again. He wanted to run for a 3rd term in 1920.
Listen, we all wanted to run for a 3rd term.
What if, you know? Maybe he would have won. Maybe he could have gotten his teeth fixed. In 1869... Nice.
Oh, that reminds me, just the teeth fix thing. I watched the new Night Stalker documentary that's on Netflix. It's pretty intense, but, you know, it's actually, to me, much more tame than a lot of true crime things.
Yeah.
Like, visually. But, you know, it's an upsetting story. But with the Night Stalker, they caught him partially because he had really gross teeth. Actually, a very handsome guy, Richard Ramirez. Really gross teeth. And so they caught him by, like, finding a business card for his dentist, etc.
Yeah.
But one surprise from that documentary is Dianne Feinstein is also one of the bad guys of that documentary.
And of America.
And of America. At first they showed her and I was like, oh, Dianne Feinstein was the mayor of San Francisco at the time of the Night Stalker and maybe she's going to like help them catch the Night Stalker. No. They say, hey, we got to be totally on the down low. We have all this evidence that we could use to catch him. Don't tell anybody the evidence. So the next day she hosts a press conference being like, there's a serial killer. Everybody run for your lives. And we know his shoe size and he wears the same exact shoe every time he kills, etc.
The one key piece of evidence that they had.
And he like devastated the detective's
Because he's not wearing the
hope
shoes.
of finding the Night Stalker.
So we're anti-Di-Fi. Did you see that Di-Fi has filed to run again for Senate?
Yeah, even though
she'll be like 90 years old. Now, she probably will not run. Mm-hmm. This would be 2024, I believe, is when she's up next.
It's just to keep other people from challenging her, right? Like, or...
It's to fundraise.
Ew.
It's to allow...
That's Joe Biden's move.
Yeah,
fundraising when you don't need to.
Yeah, it's to allow... Which, like, technically she can't give herself that money, but she can use that money to basically support other things. Like, if she has a hand-picked successor.
To host galas.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of senators, we also have a new senator in California.
What?
Alex Padilla.
Oh.
He's the first male senator since 1992. Uh-huh. Oh, no, since 1993. He's the first male senator in 1993.
Since my whole life.
That's right. Previous male senator was Alan Cranston, who was replaced by Di-Fi. Or no, Alan Cranston was replaced by Barbara Boxer. Di-Fi... Okay, so... and Alex Padilla is also the first Southern Californian to be in the Senate since 1992. And he's the first Latino senator from California ever.
Which is bananas.
Insane. For a place that used to be Mexico.
Yeah.
That is, fucking insane.
Which is another great thing about the Night Stalker documentary is he is caught by a detective team of a young Mexican guy and his older, gruff Italian sidekick. It warms my heart. It's adorable. But the show is very much about Mexican Los Angeles Angelino culture, so it's really cool.
And as I say, all ethnic Catholic immigrant groups have some form of solidarity with each other.
Yeah, like the hardened Italian guy that helped catch the hillside strangler, he's like I'm gonna take you out to dinner because you're such a good upcoming young blood, and he's like, I've only ever eaten Mexican food. I didn't know what to order at this Italian restaurant. I got chicken parmesan. I didn't know how it was going to taste.
Good call, though.
And yeah, I just love the idea of like, it's so like when Italians first, had like Mexican food. And it's like, it's so similar, just they're slightly different spices.
They just need a Mick. They need an Irish guy in there. Maybe the chief of police could have been an Irish guy.
Ugh, they don't need...
Yes, they do!
Is Feinstein, she's just Jewish? Is she Jewish?
Yeah.
I feel like she's got some Irish in there.
No, Feinstein's totally Jewish.
I don't care. So...
Don't you put that darkness on me.
Okay.
Feinstein's not Irish.
Okay, so...
So Woodrow Wilson couldn't go.
All right. No one wanted him to go anywhere.
No one wanted him. So the last boycott was Andrew Johnson, who in 1869... had a final cabinet meeting instead of go to Ulysses S. Grant's inauguration.
Not to be confused with Andrew Jackson. And Andrew Johnson, did you say this last time or just to me in private? Because you're always just telling me useless facts. That Andrew Johnson was never actually voted for ever, basically, or something?
That wasn't Andrew Johnson.
Who was that?
It's Gerald Ford. Was never voted for.
Oh, well, wasn't there something about Andrew Johnson?
Andrew Johnson was the first president to ever be impeached.
Oh, did we talk about that in the impeachment episode?
I think so. I think we did.
Okay, whatever.
But just in quick...
To our loyal listeners.
Andrew Johnson was impeached and not convicted and removed by the Senate.
Okay, so he was like, screw Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, well, because Johnson was a Democrat.
Uh-huh.
And he was Abraham Lincoln's running mate in 1864.
Oh.
Technically, they were elected on the National Unity Party ticket. Because the idea was that they wanted to have Lincoln, who, of course, was a Republican, have a ticket with a pro-union Democrat.
Yeah.
Which is Johnson. And so, when Lincoln died, Johnson became president. and the Republicans in the Senate and the House
yeah.
were fucking pissed.
Yeah.
And Grant was a Republican. Mm-hmm. So that's why he was like, no.
No thanks.
No thanks.
On
thanks.
another side note, I was thinking of Lincoln and how there was like a picture of one of Trump's people like leaving the White House with a bust of Lincoln or something. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like Trump, I mean, there might be nothing nefarious, but it also feels like he's like, just go take a bunch of stuff from the White House. But I saw that Joe has rearranged like the Oval Office, and he's got a bust of Cesar Chavez, and
He has a bust of Cesar Chavez, a bust of Martin Luther King,
and Bobby Kennedy.
Oh, and Bobby Kennedy. That makes sense.
That's a pretty awesome lineup.
Those three guys, yeah.
Yeah. And one of like Rosa Parks. And it's just so funny because we've seen Joe's record long enough that it's like he was not on the side of any of those people. I mean, I do believe that Joe, you know, has become more educated in the past many decades and his time with Obama. But it's also just so funny that it's like a lot of these people were your contemporaries. You
Biden,
were not on the right side of history then. It's just it's a bizarre, it's like, that's good, but also...
It's not even bizarre, because what Joe Biden does, what he's always done,
Mm-hmm.
is he puts himself exactly in the middle of wherever the Democratic Party is.
Yeah, at
And
every
so,
single
at
time.
every moment.
So he wasn't fully
in the
against,
present.
like, Bobby Kennedy or Dr.
No.
King, but he was not, like,
But he wasn't
gonna
for
march with
because he
them.
doesn't have morals. He doesn't have values.
Like,
his value is loyalty to the Democratic Party. So wherever the middle of the Democratic
Mm-hmm.
Party is where he is. Which means as the Democratic Party has moved to embrace figures
Mm-hmm.
like MLK and Bobby Kennedy in their death,
then he
embraces
they're
them.
safe.
He
It's
doesn't
like-
get ahead of it. That's not what he does.
There's a really good Bobby Kennedy documentary. What's it called?
I think it's just called Bobby Kennedy for President, Robert Kennedy for President.
Yeah.
It's a 4-part
I really
series.
did not know a lot about him. We should definitely do an episode.
Agreed.
But, like, he became... You know, he lived a very sheltered life.
Yeah.
It got sort of rocked more and more. He became a little more woke. Especially, he really took criticism very seriously.
Yeah.
And at first, you know, like a lot of people with a lot of privilege, he was very defensive. And then, you know, he opened his eyes to a lot more of the situations in New York and in the country when, you know, his brother was assassinated that, you know, made him distrust the government more and realize there's more corruption. And he became, like, best friends with Cesar Chavez or Chavez.
They were very close.
And he would go and do, like, you know, participate in some of the hunger strikes and all these things. And it's like, Joe Biden would never, ever do that.
No.
Bernie would do that. But, like, it's just amazing that it's like, Bobby's not even... I mean, I'd say, like, JFK is on a similar level ideologically to Biden.
Closer.
But, like, Bobby became radical.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
that's why he
Biden's-
was murdered.
Biden's
assassinated.
ideology is the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
Biden's ideology is the Democratic Party is the best you're going to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
the only force for good in the country. And so we're going to hold it together. And so wherever the party goes, Biden goes. Which is why now that the party has people like AOC in it
Mm-hmm.
and Bernie as a leader, Biden is more willing to go further left. But you can't move Biden to the left. You can't move Biden anywhere.
He has to... It's
Biden
like the party
goes
has
with the
to...
flow.
That's
he goes
so...
with the party.
That's so what needs to be
Yeah.
done.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, it's like Joe... You know, Joe... These are some things that I don't know if he's going to act on. But, like, and there's some things he has... Definitely look up what... Because I don't want to be just, like, listing off things we read on the news every day. But, like, you know, he has done... you know, or his administration has done some really exciting things since being, you know, sworn in and, you know, like, rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, blah, blah, blah. You know, increased, like, protections for LGBTQ people. Like, he's done a lot of the things, sort of, like, tried to set right a lot of the things that Trump had done that are kind of easy to sort of undo. And, you know, he's actually having, like, a trans woman in his health.
She's the assistant or deputy secretary of Health and Human Services, I think.
Yeah, all these things. And he's, you know, since Bernie basically left the primary, you know, Joe has been a lot more like, climate change is bad. Healthcare, everyone should be able to have affordable healthcare. And oh my gosh, trans people... Look, that's a person I know now. And, like, he's opening his eyes to a lot of things. And I feel like it's because of the people he's around. And also, like, because he has that, like, grandpa who's kind of like, I don't really give a shit anymore. Like, yeah, why not? And the thing is whether or not he will actually, like he said, like, we should never have the death penalty ever now. He wants to abolish the death penalty. I feel like that's just kind of a, like, like, I feel like when he had more kind of life and essence to him, he would make a more politically calculated decision. But I think now he's kind of just like, yeah, why not? And he hates Trump. Trump has been, and the Republican Party have been so vile that I feel like it's turning a lot of moderate Democrats into, like, well, I don't understand what being trans is, but these people hate these trans people so much that it's turning these moderates into, like, I don't actually have a problem with that. I don't actually have a problem with making dreamers actually citizen, you know?
Which is why Biden's moving that way, too. Mm-hmm. The key thing about Biden that everyone needs to understand, he does not have an ideology. Mm-hmm. He will not ever change his mind.
Differently from Trump. Trump's ideology is, like, whatever gets his dick
Trump is purely
wet.
transactional. Biden's not transactional either. He's just a party man. He's a company man. Mm-hmm. So
he's a madman.
He is. I mean,
literally, he's like a Don Draper.
He's like Roger Sterling.
He's like Roger Stone. But, not Roger Stone, Roger Stone.
Yeah, but so just don't expect, or you don't analyze Biden as an individual. What he thinks, what he believes, what he wants, none of it matters.
And he's got a complicated cabinet right now, but I feel like a lot of the positive things that have been done are because he actually does have a lot more qualified people than Trump.
His cabinet is representative of the Democratic Party as an institution. That's the frame that you have to see Joe Biden through. Mm-hmm. Is he is totally in hock to the party. So he goes where the party goes. If the party becomes more to the left, even out of just reaction to Trump, so does Joe. If the party has segregationists in it, that it still has positions of power, Joe's fine with that. If the party wants to elect the first black president, Joe's on board.
And I don't even think he's full of shit. I do think that he's very influenceable.
Which is why that's the key to understanding him.
Yeah.
Is that he truly thinks that the Democratic Party is the force for good.
Which is why a lot of his gaffes aren't inherently, like, evil. What he's saying, they're just weird.
He's not secretly conservative.
Don't say that word.
He's not secretly conservative. He's not secretly a racist. He's not secretly liberal. He's
probably
not secretly
a
leftist.
rapist, but not secretly racist.
But again, Democratic Party. He just is a company man. So if you want to influence Joe Biden, you need to elect as many AOCs to party leadership as possible.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Because he doesn't care, really. Mm-hmm. He just thinks that the Democratic Party is the way that anything is going to get done. And so you have to change the structure under which he operates, not him.
Yeah, even, like, the fact that, like, before Kamala was, like, a threat to him, but now that Kamala is his VP, it's like
the party picked his running mate for him.
Pretty on board.
And when I say the party also, I don't even mean just electeds in leadership. Yeah. I mean the voter base of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he got ahead of Obama on gay marriage. It's because Obama was behind the party on it. Because you remember, Biden came out in favor of gay marriage before Obama did, when he was vice president.
Bizarre.
But I think a big reason why is because Obama was behind the voter base on that.
Behind meaning backwards, or he was following
he was behind
the voter
them.
base?
Yeah,
okay.
he was backwards from them. Because most Democrats by, was it 2012, I think? Most Democrats were in favor of gay marriage by that point. Obama was not still. And Biden came out and said that he was.
And why? What was Obama pandering to Republicans? Because
No. Popular sentiment on gay marriage changed really dramatically, really, really fast.
Yeah. Just like with Hillary, too.
Yeah, I mean, 2008, nobody was running on gay marriage. 2004, Kerry probably lost the presidency because of gay marriage. Which he wasn't even in favor of. But that was... It's easy to... What's what I have to do a 2004 episode. Gay marriage was one of the big issues in 2004. One of the big marquee issues. Because it was a huge flashpoint thing that most people were not in favor of. And, yeah, Obama was not in favor of it in 2008. But over the course of his first term, honestly, partially as a response to Prop 8 here in California, it became the Democratic mainstream position to be in favor of gay marriage. And now, in 2016, you had both candidates that were in favor of gay marriage running for president. Trump is technically the first president elected to his first term while being in favor of gay marriage.
That's so surreal. Last night I got Discovery Plus. Well, my mom technically did because we are obsessed with 90 Day Fiancé. And on Discovery Plus, there's new content where they fuck, and they say fuck. So we started watching Discovery Plus, and there's just a multitude of, like, ridiculous true crime shows and fixer-upper type shows. So last night I put on, just to have something mindless, a show called Selling New York or something, where it's real estate agents selling insanely priced lofts and whatever. And it looked like it was from, like, 1992. Like, the phones looked huge and, like, everything, the fashion, like, it looked like it was filmed a really long time ago. And so I looked it up. It was 2010. When I think of 2010, I think of, like, what TV shows were on then, like...
That's Breaking Bad.
I was going to say Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Mad
of
Men.
it as a very recent, very modern time.
Yeah.
And it was super weird to see, like... and, you know, definitely with the fashion as well. A lot of the times, that era of the 2000s could practically be the 90s. That's how much we've changed as a culture. The housing situation in New York has not gotten any better, but that was so weird to see. Put things in perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So,
as we talked about, Andrew Johnson didn't go. Before him, Martin Van Buren did not attend the inauguration of his successor, William Henry Harrison. Now, we don't actually know why Van Buren didn't go. That hasn't been recorded. We just know he wasn't there. And William Henry Harrison, who was the first Whig president...
Which you may know from The Simpsons
The Mediocre President song?
CD of the caretaker presidents, where
Yeah.
they're like, William Henry Harrison, I died in 30 days.
So William Henry Harrison, who was the first Whig president, and at the time, and I think until Reagan, was the oldest president that was ever elected. He was like 68 years old. He gave the longest inauguration speech, inaugural address ever. It was something like thousands of words, you know. We don't know how long it was because nobody recorded it.
There wasn't time back then.
And then also they didn't invent time until Einstein.
They were like looking at the, what's it called? The sundial.
Yeah.
And they just knew that, like, it was dark.
It was just long. Yeah.
It was long.
And it was also very, very cold.
Mm.
And he didn't wear a coat or take care of himself at all. Caught pneumonia and died 30 days later. Shortest run president ever. Interestingly, only 2 presidents were ever elected from the Whig Party. There's William Henry Harrison and Zachary Taylor. Both of them died in office. So there's actually been 4 Whig presidents, but it's because their vice presidents took over for the 2 that were elected. Zachary Taylor, who was a war hero.
Zachary Taylor Thomas.
Zachary
Taylor Tinker told her spy.
Try it again.
No.
Zachary Taylor, I believe, is the one who died eating a bowl of cherries. He ate a bowl of, like, bad cherries.
They were bad, or he had choked on a pit?
They were bad.
How do you eat a whole bowl of bad cherries?
It probably wasn't actually that. It was probably
And
due to the
die.
fact that the White House's water system was built over a septic system.
Yeah.
Which is actually why a lot of presidents probably died in that era.
I will say, it's funny because the Bernie meme, Bernie wearing his winter clothes at the inauguration, it's become such a prolific meme that there's also backlash from people being like, it's sexist that Bernie was just dressed so dumpy when women aren't allowed to dress dumpy at inaugurations, and why aren't we celebrating Kamala and having her in everything, etc. And then there's been, you know, people saying like, oh, that's stupid. He was just like,
So Janet Yellen was dressed almost exactly the same.
Yeah, and it's like, he was fucking cold. Like, it's Washington, D.C. in January. Like, you should definitely be bundled up.
Yeah.
And it's fucking nuts to think that William Henry Harrison died because he wasn't dressed like Bernie.
Well, that's what they all want. These psychos.
They want
online.
Bernie to be wearing stilettos.
Yeah, in a big purple coat.
And a little black dress.
So, the other 2 presidents that boycotted their successors were in similar situations. It was those rascally Adams boys, both John and John Quincy. And John Adams left Washington to avoid the inauguration of Thomas Jefferson, his hated foe.
That's so cute and catty.
Yeah. And then...
Didn't they die on the same day?
They did. And,
Adorable.
I believe
They're-
Adams died first, and Jefferson died later that afternoon. His last words were, "Adams lives."
Yeah.
It was that, or it was the inverse, but they
Yeah.
both died on July 4th.
Yeah, it's a real, like, Daniel's son and Johnny
Yeah,
Miyagi
yeah, big
versus Cobra Kai feud.
Yeah, 100%. And then 28 years later, which of course is the new 28 days later, John Quincy Adams left town to avoid the inauguration of his hated foe, Andrew Jackson.
Fair to hate Andrew Jackson.
Well, because, Jackson, or Adams basically ascended to the presidency after Jackson won the most votes in 1824.
What? It was a real
Yeah.
Hillary-Trump situation?
1824, there was no winner. Because it was
What?
split 4 ways. The Electoral College vote was split 4 ways.
Between who?
Between...
John Quincy Adams,
Yeah, JQA,
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson, and this is the interesting thing too, is they're all from the same party. They're all Democratic Republican.
What?
But so John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, William H. Crawford, and Henry Clay.
William H. Macy.
Yeah.
Clay Aiken.
They're all from the same party, but they're all from different factions of the same party.
Yeah.
Because at this point, the U.S. is basically a one-party state.
Yeah, which reminds me, Trump has floated around the idea of starting his own party.
Patriot Party.
Yeah.
We're signing up. Between, basically, so Adams was the first Adams was the last Federalist president.
Mm-hmm.
And William Henry Harrison was the first Whig president, and that was the 1830s, I think 1840s maybe.
And Sam Adams just wanted to brew.
He did. Between that, basically, it was more or less one party state. It was all Democratic Republicans. The Whigs grew up in opposition to Jackson, the Jacksonian Democrats. But so it was this 4-way tie. Not tie, but it was undecided.
Menage a tie.
Yeah. But Jackson won in 1824. He had more electoral votes and he had more of the popular vote. But because it was... he didn't have a majority of electoral college votes, it went to the House of Representatives to decide. And they didn't like Jackson. So they gave it to...
Quincy.
They gave it to Quincy. Jackson was furious about this. He felt like the presidency was stolen from him, which...
So he took it out on
was.
Native Americans.
Yeah, basically.
It's like, you all stole the election!
And then
Need a scapegoat.
And then 1828 was a rematch between Adams and Jackson, but just the two of them, and Jackson won handily. And John Quincy Adams would go on to be the only president to hold elected office after the presidency. He was elected to the House of Representatives after he was president. John Quincy Adams was. And he basically just spent the rest of his life, which wasn't that long, maybe 10 to 20 years, mostly talking about how we had to stop expanding west and we shouldn't go to war with Mexico. That was his big thing.
Those are good
Both
things.
correct. Yeah.
Oh my god.
John Quincy Adams, kind of the goat. Low-key goat.
Low-key goat.
But so, those were the other boycotts. And, Jefferson and Jackson are quite similar themselves as well. There's a reason that the Democratic Party annual fundraising dinner, until recently, was called the Jefferson-Jackson dinner. They were both the...
Oh, I thought that was the other Jackson 5 guy.
They were both kind of the rural agrarian, sort of semi-populist.
Yeah.
But not really. Racist populist.
So the inauguration was basically the first two were not at the Capitol, or not at the White House.
There was no standard.
There was no standard, and then it's always the same place.
It's always the same place.
Which there was a lot of concern this year about, is it going to be safe?
Yeah.
Because of all the Trumpers. And so they enlisted the National Guard. But they didn't have any plans of where to put them, take care of them. They were shaking their hands and shit and we respect the boys in blue.
And they all
or the boys in tan. And then they forced them to fucking sleep in garages, huddled together for warmth, basically. And a ton of them have COVID now.
Yeah.
It's that is so sickening and bullshit. And especially when people are like, Bernie should have dressed up. It's what about you fucking spent that money on hotels and shit for the
Yeah.
military, and of course, I mean, yeah, the military's budget is so huge, but so the National Guard, now some of them have to quarantine in hotels, but it's like
Insane.
fucking
Completely
ridiculous.
insane.
Yeah, I think Tammy Duckworth who is a veteran, was like, what the fuck, you gotta do something. But the Congress were like, well, we thought the National Guard was handling it.
Yeah,
It's like so much passing the buck. And there's also a kind of, it's a sort of like, I feel like I always reference, it's sort of like an end of the Graduate moment. After all the fanfare of the inauguration, there is video of Biden arm in arm with Dr. Jill walking into one of these buildings, and there's Marines guarding the door, and he walks past and he just goes, "Salute the Marines," and keeps walking. He's not telling Jill to salute the Marines, I guess, because she doesn't salute the Marines. He doesn't salute the Marines. Best case scenario, the Marines on the inside that they're planning to salute, but people are basically saying, like, he just says everything his earpiece says, and he just repeated what they told him to do, and he didn't actually even do it. So, Biden watch. Does he have dementia?
Who knows?
Who knows? I think he's well medicated for his aging, addled mind, and it's going to be frustrating when there are more and more moments like that. Because even though he's been doing a good job at performing, I mean, he did a goodish speech saying that Trump shouldn't, should stand, call back his people from attacking the Capitol. It was a pretty good speech. But, if he's got an earpiece that's basically feeding him everything to say, like, and all the times when he doesn't have something fed to him to say, he says really weird shit. That's going to be scary.
The only piece of evidence to suggest that he doesn't have an earpiece is that it's really hard to talk when somebody's talking in your ear, and he can't talk normally.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't know how to say a sentence normally. But maybe he's very good at it. Here's a tinfoil hat theory. You ready? Mm-hmm. You want me to put my tinfoil hat on? What if all this talk from major liberal politicians about Pence 25th Amendmenting Trump was to get the people used to the idea of a president getting 25th Amendmented so Kamala can remove Biden for not having his brain in place?
I think that's definitely a possible side effect. Another thing is there was recently, I watched the clip because Kyle's conservative grandma told us about it, and I was like, I don't know if this is true. And unfortunately it is. In a very recent, like the last couple of weeks, interview with Joe, they said, where he answered a bunch of other questions, but they said, what'll you do if Kamala and you don't agree on something? And at first he said, like, oh, it's not going to happen. Or he said, like, if we don't agree, I'll just get a disease and leave. Or, something like that. And that made zero sense. Like, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt of, like, what did he mean? But he basically said, like, I will get ill and drop out, and she'll take over, essentially. So I feel like that's, I wouldn't doubt that that's something that they've planned, which is all so sketchy. In the words of a past episode we did of The West Wing, it definitely, the stuff with Kamala and Joe, and how Joe has kind of even referenced, like, I'm just a placeholder for the Pete Buttigieg's of the world, and Kamala, it's very much like sort of a West Wing, like, we didn't tell the public because the public didn't need to know that Martin Sheen had MS, whatever.
Yeah, he was MS.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like, I think it is fucked up that they've sort of tacitly been implying that, like, we know Joe's really old. He's the only one that can beat Trump, but don't worry, we've got this young, powerful woman who is gonna, like, don't worry, she'll take over if anything happens.
This woman who had been touted as being the next president for, like, 10 years.
And did so terribly in the primaries.
Which, like, look, people have mentioned that also-rans become...
mention.
That's right. Also-rans become president, or vice president all the time. That happens.
Like Joe Biden.
Like Joe Biden. People that don't really... Or John Edwards in 2004, or although he did a lot better
because he's
than
a psychic
Harris.
medium.
Yeah,
so.
that's right. Al Gore, although he had run in 88, not 92. But it happens.
Mm-hmm. It's a good place to put them.
That's right. And usually it's because they have something that you don't, which is the case with Harris for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why it's noteworthy to talk about how poorly Harris did
Mm-hmm.
is because, at least since she was Attorney General of California, she has been touted explicitly as the next Barack Obama, as the female Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the whole narrative. She is on a crash course to the presidency. She's on the ascent.
While the Democratic Party neglects the other women of color.
Of course. Which, and I know that she is problematic, but look at how they treat Tulsi Gabbard, a woman of color who ran for president, right? Not well.
Nina Turner.
But so, Kamala was on this she was speed running the presidency, basically.
Oh, I guess even with Stacey Abrams, it's like they tokenize her. Like they
100%
treat her like the
tokenized.
magical, like, wow, Stacey Abrams magically got us Georgia. It's awesome that they're giving her credit.
Yeah.
But
it took a lot of fucking work. And honestly, it probably took her not being the vice president.
Yeah, and that was
to get
honestly
Georgia.
after Joe Biden, like, they openly was, keeping her on the hook of, like, you might be vice president.
I remember somebody asked, like, do you want to be vice president? And she was like, you don't run for second. And it's like, respect. Badass.
Yeah, it's like Stacey Abrams, like, I don't appreciate that she took Bloomberg's money.
No.
But it's also one of those things where it's like, maybe if I was in her position, had the goals that she had, it would be like, I gotta take whatever funding to get. She
has results. And that's more than a lot of these people can say.
But it's
and also,
honestly like,
she got her election stolen from her.
Yeah.
So.
And I just think it's the Democratic Party does not want, a certain type of black woman. They don't want
they don't want a certain type of black man.
They don't want a plus size black woman. No. Yeah, they don't. It's like everything.
They want a cool, calm, collected Harvard guy for Obama, and they want a Chuck swearing, safe rap referencing, very pretty woman.
Pro-police, anti-gang, anti-whatever. Yeah,
with straight hair and light skin.
Exactly. So it's just very
Kamala was on this
obvious.
She was speed running to the presidency, and so she runs in 2016, and she crashes and burns so fucking hard that she so fails to get any traction at all that she has to drop out early enough that she can remove her name from her home state ballot.
Wait, 2016 or 2020?
I'm in 2020. Okay. I'm in 2020. Thank you. But so, like, that's meaningful. If you're somebody who the entire political establishment...
Your home state isn't like, yeah!
Well, it just, if you're somebody who has been set up to be president by the entire political media, political establishment, Democratic Party, and you don't get a single vote in the primaries, you have to drop out before the primaries because you're crashing and burning so hard, that's meaningful. Sorry. It means you fucked up. It means that they're not backing the right horse. But the fact that she's still, I mean, almost certainly going to be the first female president, that's failing upwards.
The last couple of years have shown that things can have tremendous twists and turns. I mean, there was even a moment a couple weeks ago where it was like, maybe Nancy Pelosi's going to get sworn in. But yeah, it's like, it's even if, let's say I was even, a diehard Biden-Harris fan.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's cool to be like, hey, this guy is probably has an expiration date of like a year of his presidency, but don't worry, we've got backup. That's not okay. I mean, like, am I a hypocrite? Would I be happy if it was like, throw in Bernie and then his V can be...
I don't think that's hypocritical. You know why? Because people's beliefs and records and ideologies matter.
Yeah, and Bernie's ability to, do what he's doing, his performance.
Some things are good, some things are bad.
Yeah.
So.
I wanted to bring up that the oath itself has changed a lot. And it started, they kind of kept adding stuff on to the oath. And, So Help Me God wasn't actually part of it.
Washington Irving's biography says that Washington said, "So help me God."
Mm-hmm.
But the only contemporaneous reproduction of his oath does not include it. So we don't know. But Washington Irving wrote Legend of Sleepy Hollow. He probably was just fancying it up. It was Chester Arthur in 1881 who...
The president who never died?
The president who never died.
Okay.
Chester Arthur, who included "So help me God." And that was a personal prayer.
Yeah,
it wasn't
just kind
part
of
of
like,
the oath.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I just think that it's a weird phrase. It's a phrase that doesn't come up in general in like anything else.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of that. It's just kind of like, I will do all this stuff. So help me God.
So help me God. Other quick trivia that I want to toss in before we sign off. We'll have to talk about P-Gate another time. Usually it's a Bible that they swear on.
Mm-hmm.
John Quincy Adams did not use a Bible. Neither did Theodore Roosevelt.
What did they use?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
But usually when senators... I'm sure I could find it, but I just don't want to spend the time.
Teddy Roosevelt swore on like a bear hide. John Quincy used the Quran.
Yeah. Usually they use the Constitution when people don't swear on the Bible.
They're like, here's our backup.
He might just not have sworn on anything. They might have just said it.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin Pierce affirmed the oath rather than swear it.
What's that mean? He just went like, I affirm this message.
Instead of I solemnly swear, it's I solemnly affirm.
Is swearing kind of religious?
There's a religious distinction.
Swearing to God.
Yeah. There have been...
That's kind of cool. Be like, I affirm this.
Yeah, there have been other... there have been, I think... Is it Seventh-day Adventists? There's some... Maybe it's even Quakers, but... Well, Nixon wasn't really a very good Quaker. There are religious denominations that don't allow you to swear oaths. Because you've sworn your oath.
Yeah.
Your oath is to God, or to Christ. And so, there have been elected officials that affirm instead of swear.
Okay.
Also, Lyndon Johnson used a Catholic missal for a prayer book, because it was the one that belonged to John F. Kennedy that was on Air Force One. He was sworn in on Air Force One after Kennedy was killed.
That's
Dallas.
heavy. And it's heavy, too, because Johnson killed him. So it's even more kind of sick. Like, it's kind of like that, like, like killing someone and then being, like, wearing their clothes or something.
Yeah, wearing their faces as a mask. Also,
Sure.
George Bush Sr., Jimmy Carter, and Dwight Eisenhower all used George Washington's Bible to swear in. Obama and Trump both used Lincoln's Bible to swear in. And Joe Biden used a family Bible.
Kind of classy.
Yeah. I think we should wrap this up.
That was kind of a...
It was like a magical ribbon wrapping itself.
Exactly.
Luch, is there anything else you want to say before we leave our fine people alone?
Thank you for listening. Please share with a friend. If you have a friend that's like, what the fuck is going on? Or
My friends are always saying that.
Yeah, or just, friends looking for podcasts. And thank you. If you feel like writing us a review, that definitely helps us get viewed more. And we love ya. Please have a good, safe 2021. And we'll see you all soon.
Later days.
Good night and good luck.